Okay, we're back into the open briefing. And the next on our agenda, Transportation and Emergency Works Update, August 2005. Welcome, Chris, and your team. Let's go.
Chris. Okay, mate. Yours.
Good morning, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. Obviously, I'm going through the monthly report for June. I'll go through the operational statistics and data for June fairly quickly, and then I'll hand over to Chris, who'll be talking more around assets and forward works programme. So from a summary point of view, health and safety, no serious HSE issues reported in June. Sealed roads, obviously we completed previously and mentioned previously the completion of the FY 24-25 seal programme. Most of the works in June and this time of year are focused around emergency and urgent repair works. And it's more background works through June in terms of preparing the forward works programme, getting the data from the roads in order for us to assemble that programme. We've previously talked about the asset management proposal. In the meantime, we've had Brett Kelly from Downer further down the island, assisting the team up here with the development of the forward works programme and asset management functions. Quite busy on the unsealed roads over June, more work than we did actually in May. So around about 9,700 metres cube of material imported and processed across the unsealed network. As it says here, the key priority over the next month is to confirm that forward works programme, both for sealed and unsealed strengthening as well. Slips, as of June, end of June, it was 15 slips completed. I think it's a little bit more now. Mungarata Block and Pahi Road progress at the end of June. I think they're largely completed now, but Blair will talk a little bit more about that further into the presentation. Drainage works, a little bit more completed in the month for water tabling, nearly 6,700 metres of water tabling, 7 culverts installed, and a little bit more detail further on in the presentation. As I mentioned, really sealed maintenance this time of year is about urgent repair works, basically response works through June. Lots of the focus, as I said, is around developing the data for the forward works programme. We're using a system called Hawkeye, which is basically a texture analysis of the sealed network. That was 50% complete at the end of June, I think, or now 100%. That's the data that allows us to get the seal designs underway. Challenges are making sure that the pre-seal repair programme matches the prioritised reseal lists. So from a budget point of view, you've got that balance. There are other significant pavement repairs that will need to be targeted and put into that forward works programme as well. And then obviously around the final alignment of what those budgets look like to get those seal lists properly prioritised. Obviously then that allows us to align resources with the quantity of works that we're proposing. Unsealed, a bit of a map of the network in front of you around what we did in June. So data's there, 123 kilometres of unsealed roads were graded, which would be higher than we did in May. 1,195 potholes, majority of those will be on the unsealed network. And as I said before, nearly 9,700 metres cubed of strengthening metal import for the unsealed networks. Talked about drainage before, 6,700 metres of water tabling. Again, a bit of an increase from May, 25 culvert ends cleared, 7 new culverts installed. And there's a list of roads and areas on which that drainage work was targeted for June. Slips, Blair will correct me where I go wrong with this one, but at the end of June, we had 15 slips complete, and it's a little bit out of date now, but at the end of June, we had Tangawahine Valley Road. I think that's still the Wangaratta Block Road was in progress at the end of June, now nearly complete. Done. Okay. Girls High School Road, similar situation to Tangawahine, is basically on hold until the weather permits. Pahi Road, I think, is largely done as well. And Bob Taylor said the temporary wall was completed. So that's the picture, Blair. Is there anything else you want to mention on the SLIPS program?
Yeah, if I jump in there. Thanks, John. So the spreadsheet got in there, and thanks for the feedback last time, Mark. It's been changed to make it a bit easier. The work that we were doing up until 30 June was premised on that NZTA would not carry over the 92% funding. So we were crashing, what I call crashing the program, trying to compress the program, which meant we're doing works into winter. That has worked up until we got to a site called Colville Road. And Colville Road, we very quickly came across pole hole collapse, and we're finding, Golden Stairs is actually all the poles went in very well. Pokahuia is another large pole retaining wall. That's where the road is actually still dropping away after the storms. A number of those poles are in, but we're finding groundwater again for the remaining. We've got about another probably 15 poles to go for Pokahuia, and we're finding water in there. So we're just having to do a bit of remedial work to get the poles in place. Overall, though, the slips where they've gone in, and a key example would be the small retaining wall we did on Bob Taylor Road, which is just down the road at Kangaroo here. If you went for a tiki tour down there afterwards, terrible turning area afterwards, but you'll see it's a small wall, but we're trying to find, there's not enough money to go and fix all the slips on your network. And you have a number of small slip circles, you have a number of large slips. What we're doing in some of those slips is actually finding a way to basically try and retain what's there and keep the road stable, because it will cost thick end of $1 million to go and bench the hill back like the Brindurwans, simply because of the height of those slips that have come down. So a small slip like Bob Taylor Road, which is under 100,000 of work through there for drainage, I-beams and that, thanks very much to the Brindurwan stockpile, we have managed to basically hold that slip fairly well stable. So the last storm event just ended up with basically a couple of cubic meters over the top. And that's what I mean. We're getting good progress. You're seeing resilience on the network. We're going through. So if there are any questions on the spreadsheet that I've given there, please put them through. Otherwise, the sort of sites that are continuing at the moment are really the sort of Golden Stairs, which is most of the way through now. That was down to Single Lane. Pokahuia, which is most of the way through, and then we're on to, that was Bickerstaffe when it was being done. But if you flick the next site, oh no, that's on his one, on John's. There's also an image that I put up there. There was a question from Councillor Nair last time about share key, so I can discuss what that actually looks like. But that depends whether you want to flick through to that at the end. So yeah, back to you, John.
Thanks, Blair. So a little bit here around the current works program for July. You can see a visual representation of what we're targeting for the unsealed roads program in July. Similar spot map for the drainage program for July as well. But in the background, as we mentioned before, it's around the completion of our texture surveying. That's the Hawkeye that I mentioned previously. Basically marking out on the road the extents of these seal repairs and the seal renewal program itself. A little bit around drainage investigations that align with that resealing. Some renewal sites, and Chris will talk more about this in a moment, will need to be deferred until the SLIP program is completed, just to make sure those programs properly align. We'll be looking to see what works we can do early in the pre-seal repair program rather than the intrusive pavement repairs. What can we do in the way of drainage, water tabling to support those seal programs and rehab programs? Seal designs, I think you'll cover a little bit, Chris. We get into that detail. And there's some work aligning design scope for the rehabs lists as well, both the unsealed strengthening and sealed pavement work. So how are we getting designs done? Do we get a package of design works done to allow us that flexibility over the next 2 years? And Chris will talk now a little bit more detail around the asset management.
Can we ask question, Mr. Mayor, now?
Yeah, you can ask a question.
Thank you. Just a couple of, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I was grilled for half an hour last night, but some of the ratepayers. And one of the questions they did ask me about the reseal, what we are doing. And I think they mentioned the road as well. It was Toka some road around. I don't know the name of the road, but they said a lot of metals have been poured on there, which was not required, but there was other stuff which was to be done. They didn't touch it. So first question obviously is related to where the priorities are. Are there priorities on, because she wanted to know what was the urgency? Was it that, anyway, that's one question. The second question is, are we going with the times? So we are looking at those machine, the pothole repair machine, which spurts it out. Have you seen it?
Yep, we use it. We use it.
You're using it. So that should, it's a temporary fix, but I don't know how long is the temporary. Is it a month or 2 months?
Oh, it all depends on demand, really. It just depends on how many cars, trucks, and other vehicles are travelling over that pothole as to how long it will last. Yeah.
And you're happy with that? And lastly is the Whakaparo is listed here as done. I think a week ago somebody stopped me that Whakaparo is not done. I actually put a sign there, but it's taken away by one of the contractors, I think.
Which site?
Whakaparo Road.
So
The
Whakapiro,
sign is a different story.
yeah, Whakapiro, according to the slips database, has 4 significant slips on it.
Yeah.
One of the slips we sort of did, we included as part of rehab. It goes off the end of what they call the Heatley Road rehab. The largest one is Whakapiro 10K, which is up near Teope Road, and that is extended into Teope Road. And then there are 2 others that we're going to do via I-beams placed back where the shoulders failed. They are Cyclone Gabrielle. And then a discussion with the roading team, Ranesh and others, is we're going to use low cost, low risk to deal with a number of the smaller slip circles that you see. There's a number of areas that through the drought, and so they're not Cyclone Gabrielle sites. They are those almost like divots in the road where the roads drop down and you see the shoulders dropped out. They will be addressed where possible under the low cost, low risk.
Frank, the short answer is the slip at roughly 824 Whakapiro Road has been completed just before Christmas.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that might have been referred to.
No,
I wasn't sure of the change.
Yeah, but it's just that there are multiple other slips to be repaired.
yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Probably ongoing story.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Through your worship and morning, councillors and mayor. So just covering off the asset management and forward works program for the upcoming season. So at the moment, the teams have been out, I guess, inspecting and validating all of the sites and assets. You can see there just at the bottom of the slide up there that we've just introduced some video technology. So all of our inspections now are videoed. When the guys are driving the roads, they take videos. So we're able to sit in sort of collaborative workshops with the team to go through those different sites, look at the failures and how they're operating and whatnot. So we've just introduced that over the last 2 months. It's called Argonaut. So I've introduced that into the contract. You can see there on the right hand side all the faults that have been logged. So If you blow that up, you'll see a whole lot more on there, but just from a reporting point of view, it's just a little bit small from a snapshot point of view. Currently pulling together the candidate reseal rehabilitation drainage forward works program. So this is your capital expenditure program from a maintenance and operations. At this stage, we've got a fairly large list of reseal sites to do. I think we're targeting a roughly around sort of 12% is the initial long list of sites. Our target is to try to hit 8, so 8% is the target we've set for resealing per annum. But because of the waterproofing issues, we're just trying to increase that as much as we can. Is very dependent on pre-reseal repairs. So those are the more expensive repairs that are needed to be done before the resealing takes place. So that budget is, it's budget related as to how much pre-reseal repairs and subsequent resealing we can get done. So at this stage, we're targeting about $4 million, which is probably up about $800,000 on last season. So roughly. But that's a really good news story, I guess, from a council point of view, secured additional funding for your rehabilitations. And now it's just a matter of prioritising those sites. So
Can I interrupt you? Just want to ask one question, just going back to network inspections and stuff. As we've brought you guys in to do the work, we had a big clean-up from Gabriel, right? Everyone knows that, and from some of our other rain events. I'd like to know how things are tracking this winter with the work you've done, with water tabling, culverts, improving those situations. Are we getting on top? I mean, obviously the weather's going to give us new issues all the time, but are we at a point where some of that work we've done is providing us with some resilience and protection against those events again?
So I guess our answer to that is yes, we think it is, and I guess I think as we mentioned at the last meeting as well, is that one of the bits of information that informs that is we've had some significant weather events in the last 12 months, and I guess the repairs or damage to the network has been really minimal. So to me that indicates that that the drainage is working well. You're not seeing all those dropouts and slips and that sort of thing. So that indicates to me that the drainage is having a resilience improvement. Obviously the RFS is coming down as well as a general trend. So, requests for service from the community, the less requests indicates as well that, that there's less issues out there on the network. Obviously that spikes at different times of the year, depending on weather events and all sorts of information. But I guess from our point of view, that first 12 months, we're through that honeymoon period now. Managed to get quite a bit of work done, I guess, in that first 12 months. Most of it was unplanned, if that makes sense. Now, when I say unplanned, the design and all that sort of thing, we needed to get that sort of stuff done first. So I think we're definitely in a much better position and starting to see that
Can I add to that?
that drainage improving. Yep.
So one of the things that the council, as you recall at the start, we talked about putting riprap in a number of the drains to slow the water down. We also, and by that, and improving the culvert outlets. And that's been the biggest difference on the network. We're not seeing, like Ford Road, you can see the scour. So when the shoulders are eroded and they're very deep, what we're finding is a whole lot of basically sediment, it just eroded everything out, and we're starting to see the shoulders drop in, or it didn't matter which road you went on. Once that riprap has gone in, there are some areas where it started filling up, yes, but because we slowed down the amount of sediment transfer, exactly what Chris is saying, we're not getting these slips, we're not getting the culverts blocked, and the water then overtopping and going across the road and taking out the other side. That's the biggest metric that I tend to use. And of the emergency events, it's interesting. Only yesterday we were chatting as a team, saying we actually need to now start recording these emergency events, because it hasn't been an issue this round to start recording and asking NZTA for more funding. But we haven't just had the number of slips on the network, where previously every storm event you were adding adding request to NZTA for emergency works. Now we're just dealing with what we have except for 2 or 3 sites that have come up.
Good for the harbour and less good for the mangrove.
One thing I would say, sorry,
Just a quick one on that. That's a good news story. So is there an opportunity here to pitch back to NZTA for more funding, greater, higher percentage of funding on the basis of advances that you're making?
That's partly where we'd be targeting some of the low cost, low risk to attack some of these ones that are still legacy issues, because if we leave those, they will become the slips. And I think NZTA has been already very good in allowing us to carry on the 92%.
Fantastic.
I was going to just mention around the sealed network, and obviously, waterproofing and potholes are still a real issue, and the potholes are an issue because of the waterproofing. So we've got that's why we're targeting that higher percentage. So rather than 8%, trying to target up around that 10, 12%. What we've done for this year's forward program from a reseal point of view is to identify all the sites across the district that have only got 1 layer of seal on them. And I think we reported back on that back in December last year. So the whole intent of that is to get a second coat seal on them, waterproof them, which stops the potholes appearing, right? So still a bit of work to do there, but that's going to take time, because that's to increase your percentage, it's significant budget increase required to move, say, from 8 to say 10%, for example. So it's quite a bit.
Still talking small letters.
Yep. So just a little bit around the sealed rehabilitation forward works program. So similar to the reseal. So we've identified, we've got those 5 key sites there. There are other sites which you would have seen on your extended list. This is fluid. The forward works program is a little bit fluid at the moment. So still sites coming in and out depending on validation and information. What I can tell you is that there has been another site added to that. There's been 2 more sites added to that priority list. One is Paparoa Oakley, bottom section, and the other one is Lawrence intersection, Lawrence and what's that? Valley Road intersection. They've both been added to the forward works program. But this is basically the candidate program for this year. A whole lot of justification and information goes into making these decisions. So everything from economic analysis through to remaining useful lives. We look at a whole lot of triggers that sort of set off our decision making. So it starts around remaining useful life. We then move into an NPV, which is a net present value economic analysis point of view. We then go out and field validate, try to prioritise what we can across the net, and we look at it from a worst first, I guess, point of view, from looking at the amount of faults, for example, on a section of road. That then triggers that economic analysis to say we're spending more on maintenance, it's costing us more to maintain it than what it would cost us to renew. So those are sort of some of the...
Yes. I have a question there, Councillor Larson.
I was just going to ask in relation to that, sorry, I've got a croaky voice, just in relation to those low development roads that have sort of been left behind.
Yep.
What sort of changes could council make to prepare them for potential future sealing?
The unsealed roads or sealed?
Yeah, unsealed, yeah.
Well, I guess that part of that decision around the funding for seal extensions, using, I guess, trying to maximise the value out of your unsealed road budget to strengthen certain roads before you can get to that point. So NZTA at this stage obviously don't fund seal extensions, and even to the point where they won't even fund the reseal on last year's if it's within a certain time period. So there's some pretty stringent rules around it, but what we are trying to do is to focus on those, and you'll see in that long list of unsealed seal extensions, those are the sites that we get the most sort of complaints about, the most maintenance we need to spend on them. So we've chosen them using data, I guess, that's really what we use, data and engineering analysis. We don't sort of base it on other.
Adding to what Chris is saying through the chair, if we go and do, like last season, we sort of did seal extensions, and using Devich as an example, we've got a couple of soft spots near the top where additional drainage would have helped. One of the things we're wanting to do or proposing, if we go through that system, is, as Chris said, do more of the strengthening earlier season and allowing that to show through. Because if you think about, once you put the seal on there, any imperfections show up very quickly. Where when it's unsealed, you can basically find any residual soft spots. We're doing a bit more geotech. One of the things we talked about yesterday is this, we've had a good success using Dwayne from WSP on the slips, getting what we call some cost-effective solutions. So there's a bit of work in the background now to apply that on some of these sites, just understanding some of the geology there and just saying, what else could we look at? Because we would put in not just drainage, but very deep drainage, what we call counterfort drainage. We're finding some excellent results around stabilising the surface, just pulling that deeper groundwater away.
Thank you.
And all of that is subsidised. That's the point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just on the unsealed, so and look, I didn't put the list into this slide, but you would have received it as part of your pack. So there's a big list, 63 odd individual unsealed road sites that have been identified for strengthening, based on once again a whole lot of triggers and information, including logging. So we're looking at we look at the logging routes for this that are coming out this year and next year, the harvest plans. We look at, you know, where we're getting the most demand, and align those programs accordingly. So you can see there 27 individual sites from a logging point of view and targeted rates. So that's, you know, justifies that targeted rate spend. And then there's those seal extensions that I mentioned earlier. Those are the sites that are under investigation at the moment for, you know, for council to decide whether they want to go ahead with them once we get final designs and pricing underway. But at this stage, pretty reasonable budget increase again on the unsealed roads. So we're expecting that to have an advantage going forward. So I guess that's just a high-level overview of the Forward Works program.
Chris, is there likely to be some budget left over from the Kames Road upgrade?
From last year's budget, yes, yeah, there is, and I think it's been carried through to this financial year.
How much is that?
Can't recall off the top of my head. I think it's around about 800K,
Okay.
800 to a mil, was it?
Yeah.
It was around that sort of number, I think. Yep, off the top of my head.
So, this business about prevention rather than repair, particularly looking at what's going on under the ground. You know, you've got various processes, and Blair just identified one. And obviously we get the phone calls, of course, sometimes people going, oh, well, you know, for example, if you go up, you know, top of King Road where there's a bunch of houses up there and Spine Cop and that, you go up there and you fill some holes, and then a week later it fiddles down with the rain. They're all complaining. So you guys just fixed that, but, you know, doesn't seem to have worked. How can we improve the strength of those roads, you know, and so we reduce the maintenance or service requests that our contractors get?
I guess that's part of that seal extension program, and those roads you've mentioned have been identified. So King and Spine Cop. So that, you know, once again, we look at those from so they're a high cost road for us to maintain. So makes sense for us to look from an economic point of view as to whether seal extension is the right method. So then you don't need, you know, that's what's going to improve that. So.
At the end of bridge approach it looks anyway.
Yeah, we've got some other initiatives like using the millings from Moore Street around the bridge approaches and that sort of type of thing. But I guess at this stage, you know, what we're really looking at is how do we reduce the future maintenance costs by choosing the right roads now, so that we're not spending more and more. But you know, when you've got a 1,200 kilometre unsealed road network and a $4 million budget compared with, say, an Auckland Transport with a $20 or $30 million budget for half that, you can understand why the levels of service are different. So
I just look, for example, the King Road one where I get people ringing me, so I drive up there and have a look. It looks like, it needs more crowning and, the water's sitting and creating issues straight after it's been repaired. So it's not so much the fact that the pothole is there, it's the fact that the water is allowed to sit there and do it again. So, how can we do that with a maintenance program to make that work better?
Some of the work through the chair, some of the work that's going on, KDC, Daniel, Bernish have asked us for different options for stabilising those, whether it's polycom or traditional or other methods, which is to get more of that crown in there. It's some work that Mark's been trying to get. If we can push that crown up, you're right, the water will get away. But you do not have sufficient metal in your unsealed budget to go and crown most of these roads, which is why we're looking at, if we do go and bring them up, we need a way to basically try and get that surface to stay there, which is why stabilising is sort of the way of doing it. And that's that work that we'd like to do in the coming season, which then also improves the economics for a seal extension. Because you're reducing your high maintenance costs, which is where that business case comes in.
Right. So, I think my direction is that we should get on with strengthening and shaping, these remaining no exit roads, particularly where we should prioritise them on the number of lots that they feed, because the more traffic they get, obviously the quicker they break down. And, if we get some leftovers from the Kames Road, for example, well, maybe we can look at some seal as well.
Yes.
okay, just finalising. I'll just talk through these quickly, but just going through the budget and summary. So you'll see there the budget for 25-26. So reasonable sort of an increase on last year, which across a couple of categories, which is good and needed, I guess, from that waterproofing and drainage maintenance program point of view. So really comfortable with the budget and the aligned Forward Works program to that. You'll see there the split in spend across the different categories. So it's not just pavement and unsealed pavements we have to manage and look after. It's everything from street sweeping and signs to street furniture and bridges and all of those sort of things. So working through those programs and budgets at the moment to formulate all that up.
Chris, how far does 24,000 go with footpath renewals?
Very, very little, right? Very, very little. Like really all you're going to be able to do is, I know it's basically probably $200 a square metre roughly by the time you do that's not just the concrete, but all the prep and dig out and berm reinstatement and all that sort of type of thing. So, I can't do the math right now, but it doesn't go very far at all. So really the focus is on, if we're doing any other work in the area is trying to align that work with it to make it more cost effective. If we were doing another Moore Street, for example, we'd be trying to look at replacing those footpaths under the project rather than footpath renewals, but it's just not a government policy statement priority anymore, unfortunately. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Just on the performance framework. So we mentioned last month that we've introduced a new performance framework into the contract. So from July, the July report, you'll start to see each of these KPIs being reported upon. I guess what we're trying to do, the performance framework is designed not so much to measure compliance, but more around trying to drive behaviours and decision making. So for example, that's why I put in there that example around the smooth travel exposure. And what we're trying to do by using that method is to encourage the spend to be where you're going to get both bang for buck. So those high vehicle kilometre travelled roads become the priority for us. So you'll start to see those reported upon. Some are monthly, some are annual. So we'll only be reporting on the ones that are relevant at the time, but throughout the next 12 months, you'll see reports on all of those KPIs for the roading activity. I just wanted to touch on Moore Street, on quality, I guess, Moore Street and Devitt Road, because there's been a lot of comments and I guess, information that have come back through. So just around Moore Street, look, we understand it's not the absolute flashest rehab. Team got caught out by the weather. We were trying to seal that. You know, we had a very, very short window. I think it was about 6 hours. I think it was. It was the Thursday before Easter long weekend. Significant rain event was forecast for that weekend, and it turned up. We did not want to leave that road unsealed before the long weekend with all the visitors coming in, because it would have just turned into absolute disaster. So while we're copping a bit of criticism around the quality, I still think we'd probably make the same decision to seal it. And yep, it was wet, and we sealed it when it was wet. The defects are very minimal. They're very top surface stuff. As you can see, it's because the single coat seal is not waterproof. Okay, so it's really not waterproof until you get a second coat seal on it, which will happen in at the start of the season. So probably happen from October onwards. It'll be one of the high priority ones, is to get it tidied up. So any repairs will be done prior to that, and then we're sealed over the top, which will improve the aesthetics and the actual engineering function of that road.
That's an Amber.
How many reported crashes did you have with the islands?
Oh, I don't think we've had any yet.
No, you've had a few.
I haven't seen anything come through. So
Okay, so you've had nothing through your office.
no,
I think it's been hit about 4 times, I think, in that first week.
right. That's the one down by the
The new one you
Well,
put,
the-
the trade. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Obviously, muscle memory for people, brain memory, they just carried on driving and went straight into it, especially on a foggy morning, just after being put in.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of anything, but yeah.
Chris, using Moore Street as a good example, do you feel that there was sufficient communication done about why you were sealing it and why you wanted to get done, so inform the community?
Oh, look, probably. We did a lot. We put a lot of effort in early days around the stakeholder comment. You know, we had community nights and everything in preparation. But I guess that day, it was 6 a.m, and it was we had a 6-hour window to get it sealed before 300 mils of rain. You know, so it was like we just have to get this done. So, you know, it's always easy in hindsight to go back and look at that. But
I don't mean prior, but even immediately post.
Yep, we could do, I guess. Yep.
Away some stress.
Yep.
Mr.
That's a no, followed by Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just while talking on Moore Street, I think Victoria Street is something you were saying that you're going to look at some point, and you have issues with the drainage and whatnot. And are we making any progress at all, or is still?
Yep. So as you would have seen in your pack there, Victoria Street's our second highest priority rehab for this year. So we're just working with the Three Waters team from KDC at the moment around upgrading those assets underneath before we do the pavement design. So at the moment, that road's gone out for 3 different design options. So they're with the design teams at the moment, which will come back with, you know, the high, medium and low risk options for decision making. So yeah, Victoria Street's on it's a high priority for us this year.
Good to know.
Councillor Williams.
Thanks, Chris. I just wanted to say that I think that Moore Street, considering, because I use it very often, you know, the weather that we've had and the condition of the road and everything that was going on, I think the actual overall seal and what we're driving on now is actually way better than I thought it was going to hold out. So, yeah, I think it's held up really well, actually, considering. So
Fixing
I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. I mean, there is going to be more potholes in it before we get there. And I guess we're just monitoring that on day-by-day basis. But it is purely top surface stuff. So it's of no real concern to me from a engineering point of view. We just need to get it waterproofed.
Just get that concealer.
Yeah. And I just want to cover off Devich Road as well. A little bit of a different scenario here, where, you know, I guess more investigation and design would have been beneficial. Pretty tight timeframes though, in reality. You know, I think, you know, it came up in October, and the program was to do it before the end of April, I think, was the council resolution. So in hindsight, you know, we would want to be doing testing, and that's why we want to do testing now, right? Because the ideal time to do your pavement investigation and testing is during the winter, or basically, you know, winter into spring, because that's when it's at its most saturated. We did the testing on Devich Road in December. So at that stage, there was no water. That road was as dry as a bone. You know, dust complaints every 5 minutes. We were running water carts on there while we were working out there to keep the dust down. Now that we've sealed it, we've actually sealed that water in, right? So we've actually created a big problem. We'll just go back. We're going back. We've put the counterfort drains in. There's still a couple more to do, and we'll repair those before it gets a second coat. So once again, that was, you know, not ideal to have those have it failing now. But as a percentage of the actual road, it's very, very small.
Once that water's in there, it can't come out.
Well, it can't come out because we've sealed it. So now it's about trying to get getting the, well, it won't come out. It won't come out through evaporation, but it'll come out. So,
Okay.
so now we've got to get it out.
Your water tables have got to be down.
Yeah.
So Howard,
So thanks, Mr. Mayor, because on that one, we've got the 3 drains going, or the 3 cuts gone across here, there may be more. Is there going to be a compromise when you actually reseal those cuts? Is there going to be a compromise to the overall surface of the road, or do you then have to reseal the whole lot anyway?
No, well, we do have to reseal it with a second coat. So it's got to have that second coat, which is super, super important. That's critical, okay, for your entire network. But yes, it won't be the same level of compaction and that sort of type of thing, because it's just almost impossible.
so following on from that, Chris, what are our current standards required for digging up roads that's done by others to put pipes and services in, like we've seen there? Because you've got a maintenance period, but then they've come along within your maintenance period to lessen your quality of what you're trying to work with. They got a maintenance period as well.
Yes.
Sitting with you, I'm just trying to remember what's on there.
It's the Devich.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, yep, no, absolutely. I mean, we put the drains in.
You did.
We put the
Okay.
drains back in.
Yeah.
Um,
The other thing, just before, councillor Larson, at some point I'd like you to come and explain to our council for our own benefit, because roading is such a big issue for all of my councillors. It would be really good if we could have an explanation on how the investigations work, you know, the difference between a SCADA, a trometer, a Clegg hammer, a falling, whatever, to show us what you're trying to tell us. Avoiding problems by investigation. So I'll leave that with you. Councillor Larson?
You just to lead on from what the mayor's talking about there with drains and stuff. What happens with the roading team in terms of your interaction with, like, for example, our waters team? When you put your program of work up, do you present that to the waters team so that they know when you're planning and you know when they're planning, so you don't end up digging roads up unnecessarily?
Yes, yep, 100%. And that's a critical part of what we do. And not just with the waters team either, it'll be with utility providers. So Telecom, Chorus, those sort of, so, you know, we'll send our Forward Works program to them as well, try to encourage any, you know, work in the next few years to be incorporated at the same time. Generally makes it a whole lot more cheaper for them as well. So it's part of our sort of dig once strategy, I guess, to try to yeah, we don't want trenches afterwards, you know.
Working quite well. You've got good cooperation and coordination.
Yeah, well, this is probably the first time we've just started doing it now, right? Because we're only sort of at 12 months in, but yes, we're starting to interact with those teams, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
And then just the final couple of slides just around customer requests and feedback. So we've definitely received some complaints in the past few days, as you can imagine, with the aggregates. So just working through that at the moment. There's been some media inquiries, working through those investigations and whatnot at the moment. So but still getting lots of really good feedback and information from residents, generally positive, except for this recent issue. And then finally, just on the budget, so you know, completed roughly $22 million worth of work over the last 12 months through the contract. Got a similar budget for this year, although it doesn't, it's a similar budget. It looks, remembering this budget included a whole lot of that unsubsidized work, the slip work, which wasn't part of that. So if you actually look at it overall, your budget has gone up for transport. So yeah, so that's sort of where we're at from a finance and commercial point of view, but minimal carryovers. I think there were some carryovers, but pretty minimal.
Excellent.
Right. Further questions, Councillor Larson?
I kind of agree with what the mayor said. I think we can get some more bang for our buck out of this pavement rehab and get some better shape in there and have less maintenance revisits on some of these little roads that are getting hammered. That means we can then get some seal on them as well. That'd be awesome.
Prevention's better than cure. Thank you. All right, yeah, thank you for that presentation. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to stop for a 10-minute break. Come back at 11:32. Right, welcome back to this briefing. So 6th of August at Pangatoria Community Complex. Next on our agenda is Transportation and Emergency Works update. No, sorry, project delivery update. But Kim Jennings, Brian Hagan and Hayley Withington presenting this. Thank you. Alana.
Kim is actually, no, you've gone past it. Yeah, but stop. Sorry. Kim's lucky enough to be on annual leave. She's on holiday, so we do give our staff time off when they work super hard. So it's just me and Brian here today. So I'll just move across to this one here. So I'll take the report as read, but key to note is that this report has excluded project actuals because it's the end of the financial year. So our finance team are going through the process of closing out year end and doing journals. So our final figures for the financial year will be presented alongside after the carry forwards have been confirmed in September. So we'll give you all those final figures then. But I just want to note that 37 of the 41 projects that we completed were under budget in that financial year. I'll hand over to you now if you want to go through the.
Cool, I'll just go through the project list. Just want to note there's a lot of good projects been delivered recently. Notably, a fleet of projects in Dargaville stop and repairs. So 4 different sites there, and yes, a really good outcome, good results there. So it's been a great outcome. So I just want to highlight some risks to the program. Obviously, the risk of partial delivery is always there, so that's why we mitigate that risk by utilising external consultants as well as our own internal team. Staff retention is also flagged as a risk, and we've recently engaged a new project manager, so he's a couple of weeks in, Sean, and so he's getting his feet under the desk and starting to pick up projects. So that's good. So it's increased our capacity a bit internally. So just to note on that staff capacity, there have been 59 new appointments in the last 12 months. 29 of these vacancies were filled internally, 30 were filled externally, and noting that the current internal FTE is not sufficient to deliver all of the projects. Therefore, we will continue to use externals. Firstly, as a scalable workforce, obviously to increase our capacity when demand increases, but also to meet the need of additional expertise that we don't have in-house, for example, design, planning, project management, survey, geotech, etc. So that's I guess a tool that we use to manage the portfolio and manage the demand. So in relation to project risks, first on the list would be Dargaville Town Hall. Obviously, the last meeting it was voted to put a hold on the project. So we're currently in the process of organising engagement again so that we can confirm the scope and then obviously progress to tender from there. Second project, Pahi wastewater dispersal field. We're just confirming the design, so we've been consulting with the community there on the location and just making sure the design is adequate and robust. It's to note that the toilet's been finished there and is operating and functioning from a holding tank, so that's been emptied regularly to manage that. So the dispersal field is obviously high on the priority list to get that in as soon as possible. Tinapai Wharf renewal. So we've had a full marine engineers investigation, which gave us some bad news really about the condition of the wharf. Not looking in too good a shape. It's stood the test of time for a while, but it's we've basically closed it at this stage. Pending a bit of an options analysis. So we're actually investigating the possibility of increasing the breakwater. So there's 2 projects at Tinapai. So we've got a project we're designing for a breakwater to allow Coast Guard to launch from the boat ramp in all weather. So we're just investigating, got some draft designs on board to increase the size of the breakwater and the height of it to possibly facilitate a platform for people to actually get out on and utilise.
That would negate the use of redoing the wharf, right?
Potentially, yeah, exactly. So we're just trying to look at that at the moment. Well, we are looking at it, and so we've got draft designs on board. We've had internal discussions, which is progressing well. We're yet to consult with the community, so that's internal discussions at the moment. So the possibility there is to combine the two budgets to facilitate the delivery of the breakwater.
Can I ask a question on that?
So, Emma?
Thank you. Just on that, the Tunapai, are fire service and Coast Guard contributing anything to it, or were they totally reliant on the KDC on providing their?
Through the chair here, the funding is KDC. KDC.
Only 100%.
Yeah, it's a KDC asset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, Vince?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the Coast Guard and Fire Service building is adjacent to the slipway, which is at the other end of the bay.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be going along the road to use the ramp down there. So
Through the chair, the main issue with Coast Guard is they can only utilise that boat ramp about 2 hours either side of high tide, and that's the main issue. And often the weather's at its worst if someone needs help, obviously. So they need an all tide launching point. So they the boat ramp at the end by the wharf is the best one for open water access, but it needs a bit more protection in extreme weather conditions.
So are they intending to move their complex down there?
No, it's purely just the launching.
Okay.
So they'll travel back and forward.
Are they a bit like Mangawhai, where they'll be using a tractor to go into the water at that northern end?
Well, to be honest, through the chair, I don't really know how they transport the boat, but yeah,
Of interest, right.
really just to facilitate, all 24-hour and extreme weather access and egress. Yeah,
Right.
it's Tunapai Wharf. Daigle Beach Road is also listed as a bit of a risk. We've now progressed through the tender stage. We've appointed a contractor. So the off-site manufacture is underway, and it's obviously highly weather dependent, but that project will be starting the next month or so at Beach Road. So it'll replace the culvert, which was had a major issue there in January 23, I think it was, with flooding and then overtopping the road. So it was a pretty extreme event. So inland flooding and major flooding on the road there. So that will reduce the risk of that, and it's probably triple the size of what's there now, the new design. So that should do the trick. Taharai Domain, Pine Beach, Blueshins Block. It's been noted as a risk around the budget there. We've got $1.1 million in the budget. Potentially the design would have meant a potential $1.3 million expenditure, but we're currently investigating options with the design to incorporate balance tanks in the new ablutions blocks to reduce the flow on the current system, and we're also doing investigation on the network to ensure that it's robust and operating well, because it looks like there is some blockages, etc., in the current line, which will be affecting the performance of the current treatment plant. So that's ongoing, but it's probably worth noting that the visitors' toilet resource consent has come through this week, so that is progressing. The order's been made, and that will be installed before Christmas. So that's a good outcome there. There'll be a holding tank with that in the meantime until we connect it to the new ablutions.
From Councillor Vincent.
well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I just want to back up on the risks issue. I think all around the table, we have expressed concerns about the misalignment between the projects that we set ourselves to complete and what we actually achieve. And it's very probably frustrating for you as well. So just to put me more fully in the picture, how long has the project management office as a thing been in existence?
So the project management office was established in late 2018, start of 2019,
Okay.
but it is a pilot, so it only had 12 or 13 projects going through it,
Right.
and has ramped up to this point where now we have everything except for roading in our view, but we're only managing any large or significant projects that you see on the list in the report.
Yeah, because I just was wondering, like, if you've recently made a new appointment, and I get that it's probably a good idea to use external project managers for specific projects which have a certain resource which you won't necessarily need 12 months of the year. So that makes sense. But I just was wondering, have we got the balance right? How do we get to that point where we can say, well, we actually, and recognising that some are multi-year projects, but how do we get to that point? Say 95% of our projects came in under budget on time.
Once we've got the full annual plan into our system, so we just need extra resourcing. So we need extra staff in the PMO to be able to create that visibility and to provide.
You have here that you don't have enough people to deliver the 90 projects.
Yep. So, yep.
So I just want us to get to that point where we can either do that, or do we put a line through some projects and say, well, we're just not going to get that done this year?
Well, KDC is a small council, so we don't want to employ more than 4 or 5 project managers. You know, so we want the ability to be able to ramp up or ramp down depending on the year and depending on the focus for KDC. We don't want to employ people before Three Waters or Local Water's done well as well. So I think that this is a good bridging solution using external project managers through this stage.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, so with having another permanent appointment that's coming back into, hopefully, about how many?
Yeah, well, we had 4 people in Brian's team. We had 2 vacancies. So we've just filled one of those vacancies.
Still got a vacancy?
Yep, but that's a medical vacancy. So we need to wait and see if that person's going to come back from leave in the next month or so. And then depending on that, we'll advertise or we'll welcome him back.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to take your time.
Thank you. Through the chair, the last one on the risk register is the Mangawhai Alamar Crescent car park upgrade. So you'll recall there was additional funding required for that. I can report that's nearly complete. Resurfacing is being done today and tomorrow, so it's looking pretty good for delivery. The budget's looking good as well, so it's looking good for delivery in the next week or so.
So Howard.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Brian. I got one query. You may not be able to help me here. The Mangawhai Village Park development design and all that. I'm interested to know, in that work that's being done, are you going to look at the area of the Mangawhai domain also as part of that to ensure that any design that we have in Ullage Park is complementary across either side of the road, and that we look at optimal use of both areas?
Yes, absolutely. The Mangawhai domain work is in flight, so we're meeting with the stakeholders there, and we're looking at stormwater and drainage solutions at the domain. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's a good bridging solution for us in between until we get Ullage Park. So just in the interest of time.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor? My hand is hurting now. I've been up for 15 minutes.
Okay, when Hayley has answered this previous one, you can ask a question. I'll let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
What's your question, Ash?
Okay, what's your question, Ash?
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, Hayley, and thanks for that. And thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's good to have a project management office. It's good to have the 3 projects. This is going on for 3 years. Is the beach culvert and that which you mentioned, and it is still you're looking at a design. I don't know what's so special about it. What's the technicality? It's just a culvert and a floodgate replacement, and it's funded by central government. The second one is again Selwyn Park, 300,000, still under planning, and the money is sitting there. And I have concern, and I mentioned it many times, is that the new projects have taken precedence, like the pensioner one has been done for 4 million. And so the breakwater on the Tinopai, that's the last one. I've actually been there. It is hardly a project. It's a very, very small thing to do so the Coast Guard can actually launch their boat. I met the Coast Guard, in fact, and his boat was just not going in the other place. So I think that should take priority.
Have you got a question, Ash, or are you
Yeah,
making statements here?
this is, no, this is a question, Mr. Mayor, or the 3 projects. Why we are
Yes,
still under planning, and what's the issue with Tinopai, which is such a small project, and the culvert? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, so Tinapai, we just covered that. So the Tinapai Wharf required extensive marine condition assessment reports done, and we've identified that it's going to be substantially expensive and potentially unaffordable for council to repair. So we're looking at alternative options to be able to achieve some kind of fishing or swimming facility for the community, so that we provide the same level of service. And we're doing that through investigating increasing the breakwater, as Brian said. What was the next one? Beach Road design.
Yeah.
So that local government flood resilience fund covered multiple projects that we prioritised, and we've gone through one by one to deliver them. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the Beach Road culvert?
Yes, through the chair. Yeah, the Beach Road culvert, the contract's been let, so we're in the process of engaging a contractor now to get on site and do the work. Yeah, so that's basically ready to go weather dependent. For some reason, it's taken quite a while to get the design confirmed. I can't speak correctly, but we picked up probably middle of last year, towards the end of last year, and it's basically ready for delivery as of now.
Thank you, Brian. And the Daga will be, sorry.
Selwyn Park, sorry, was the other thing you talked about.
Yeah.
The reason that project didn't get kicked off straight away is because we actually identified that further work was needed to be done at Selwyn Park. And so we've combined budgets from roading, stormwater and parks to achieve a better outcome there. So that's why that project has taken longer to take off, but that's in design.
Yeah, the draft, through the chair, the draft design's been completed, so we've had several meetings internally to discuss it and get it right. So we've got a final meeting, I believe it's tomorrow, to just confirm that. We've got an engineer's estimate in, yeah, so we just need to discuss final details around that. If I could just speak to Tinapai breakwater as well, it might look like a small project. We had the initial design completed for the breakwater, and Coast Guard were happy with it. But when we got the wharf condition assessment back, we decided to put the resource consent on hold and then modified the design to enable a larger breakwater to be constructed to basically create a platform for public use, not just a breakwater. So that's why that's taken a bit longer to get going.
Thank you, Brian. I hope the Coast Guard can still save some life, because they can't launch the boat. So I think it has to have priority. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next steps for Tinapai is for us to go to the community with some options and to show them what that breakwater looks like and to communicate the condition of the wharf. And then we'll provide their feedback along with our recommendations to council.
Okay, thank you.
So I did actually have like a little video to show you of the Evelyn stormwater footage. I'm hoping that you guys saw that in your email with your presentation pack, because for some reason it doesn't want to work. But our one of our project managers, John McCann, he bought a drone with his own money, and he tested it out on this project and put together a little video. So I thought that I'd share that with you, because it's actually really interesting, and it shows the complexity of that stormwater project that's out there and the amount of people and work that's involved. So then I guess that's last financial year, but looking forward, I just want to touch on where we're at. So we've gone through our program initiation process, and what that is a workshop with all cross-functional staff from KDC getting together. So we're talking finance, comms, community engagement, roading, rates, health and safety, all in one room. And in that space, we are able to identify the responsibility and accountability of each project within the annual plan. So that makes sure that the tier threes and the general managers who are responsible, or the sponsors for driving that project through to delivery, are aware that that's on their work program. So it doesn't, all capital delivery doesn't just sit on mine and Brian's shoulders. There's a lot of other staff involved. We also went through and had staff present each of those annual plan items line by line, so they understood the opportunities and what the problem statements were and what we're actually trying to achieve to create more, I guess, understanding and awareness. Workforce planning, Councillor Vincent, this kind of touches on what you were saying before, identifying who we need to be able to deliver those projects, what kind of skills, and whether or not they need to be staff or their skills that need to be outsourced. So we're identifying that much earlier in the plan. Program planning, so that's aligning across the business, with roading and with different consultations or different initiatives that are happening across the district, and making sure that we're not impacting each other and we're working together and we can get efficiencies through our procurement. And then early risk identification and stakeholder identification. So we want to know who should be involved and what the risks are now in July, not waiting until Brian's team picks it up and identifies them at that time. And then we did a SWOT, so a strengths, weakness, opportunities and threats analysis. And that really helped us understand impacts across a project delivery program and also focus areas or areas for improvement as well. So where we can create efficiencies or, where we can have early engagement with the project delivery team through asset management. So like in Taharoa Domain, there's less discovery or investigations happening with our team, and it sits back in the planning space and it drives a faster, more efficient delivery of the project itself. So here's the focus areas that we came out with at the end. So one thing that we've noticed is that historically KDC has not been great at point of entry. So we've chucked stuff in the long-term plan. We've lost staff and we've lost the clarity on what that project was originally for, or the name might have been pretty ambiguous. I think there was one just called housewarming. So we've made sure that we've got some real clarity by having point of entry documentation. It means that over a 10-year period in a long-term plan, the information isn't lost. And if we lose staff, the information's not lost with them, and it creates much more consistency in planning. So all projects ask for the same criteria. We've also got our project classification. So we classify our projects small, medium and large. So large projects all go through the PMO with ET and subject matter expertise oversight. Mediums report into general managers or tier 3s, and small projects just report to the line manager. It might be just, someone replacing a grill on a stormwater vent. So we've made sure that we've got accountability and responsibility for every single item in the annual plan. There's a project sponsor, whether it's one of the 4 general managers or it's one of the tier 3s. We know who's going to be delivering it, whether it's Brian's team or whether or not the ops team are going to deliver maybe a small piece of work themselves. And we've got the planning teams allocated. So we know who's writing the business case or the project brief or the statement of work, and they understand that that's on their workload. We're also enabling better inductions, so making sure everyone understands what's expected of them, and touching on our operations team, because we understand now through the PMO that they are delivering capital projects, and we want them to follow the same level of documentation and requirements for the PMO as well. And then making sure that project sponsors understand their role, and so that they're coaching, mentoring and driving the delivery. And then obviously the development of the project overview report, we continue to expand on that. So the project overview report is what you see with the map and all the breakdown of the project. So those are our focus areas. Obviously, we're driving a reduction, 15% reduction in carry forwards. So we're trying to smash out as many projects in the financial year as possible, and not create such a burden for us by saying we're going to do a huge amount of work that we know that we can't achieve. That's it.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Lambeth?
Yeah, I don't know if you're on top of all the figures here, but around about $41 million plus worth of projects over the whole district, and 4.2 are allocated district wide. And look, and I won't pull any punches here. When we have a look, we've got just over 16 million to the western area, 9.5 million to the central area and 11.5 million to the eastern area. Would that be correct? Those sort of figures?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Campaign launch.
Any further questions?
Yeah.
So Paniora,
Firstly, I wanted to say that this is one of the exciting aspects of our jobs, and it's really good to see a lot of the work projects being done, and we can physically see it as well, especially in Dargaville all along the river. So that's been really good. I mean, you've clearly been really busy. Just quickly, we used to get in the reports, and I love the reports, they're just awesome. And we used to get budget plus to year-to-date spend, so we could see how they were tracking. How come that's fallen away in the reporting?
It's just because finance are going through their year-end process. So the PMO is just a dashboard of the car, right? We're just showing what everyone else is doing. And so until finance finish their year-end closeout period, they can't release those figures to us. And you guys need to approve carry forwards, etc. Once that process is finished, they'll pass all that financial data to us, and then we can start reporting on it again.
I mean, because we were getting them though, so
Yes.
how come we were getting them before it was all?
End of the financial year.
It's end of year.
It's coming to us in September.
That's this month.
Okay.
He outlined at the start as well. Obviously, we're doing the carry forwards, and it'll be quite an involved report that explains it to you. And we are doing the annual report as well, so we need to close off those financial figures.
And auditors.
It's to be audited. That's the reason.
Get those, when's the,
September, we'll have those figures for you.
okay, so will that be at the September meeting? Briefing, okay. Oh, nothing,
any further questions? Okay, thank you, Marty and Brian. Right, now we're welcoming Helen Ronaldson on a local water done well update, water services delivery plan update, August 2025. And thank you for taking the effort to drive down from Doubtless Bay, is it, Helen?
Sweet.
Suppose the weather was as bad there as it is here.
It's more pleasant down here.
Oh, good.
Better as I came south.
Okay, so yourself and Sue will present this. Thank you.
Great. Well, good to be here again, and I'm sure you've all read every one of the 98 pages or whatever it was that we included for you. There's been a lot of work gone into this. I'm going to use a central government term. We've been working at pace. Obviously, the decisions were made that we are going with a multi-council CCO with all the Northland councils on board, and so therefore we need to prepare a joint water services delivery plan for submission to central government by the 3rd of September. So I've got the 2nd in my mind as the date that we have to be ready to go. So there's been a lot of work going on with a collaborative working team from all 3 councils pulling this together. So we have been making great progress in terms of the content, and we actually shared the document with the DIA last week as well, and managed to get some feedback, which I'll talk about in a minute. So with the plan itself, we've followed the DIA templates for both the Word document with all the words and the charts and things, and then a spreadsheet with the financial tables in it. So the financial tables follow fairly closely the modelling type of information that you've seen in previous sessions. So it was pretty easy for us to follow that pattern. In the document we have, because it's a joint plan, what happened, and we're doing a multi-council CCO, the CCO values are for water and wastewater for all 3 councils. So the tables of CCO information are the hefty numbers, and then there is a set of charts and tables for each council for stormwater, because we're responsible for stormwater individually. So the quantum of charts and tables is actually about the smallest part of the document. So it can seem a little bit out of whack with what you're looking at, but that's the way that it's presented, and we're required to complete it. The dollar values in this plan are inflated. Okay, so in the modelling that we've seen previously, they were uninflated, so that was easier for a comparison perspective year on year. This year, they're all inflated, so there's an escalation each year for inflation. as well as any other increases that are going. So it's very hard to compare what's in the plan back to what we previously experienced from a modelling perspective, unless you want to sit there and do the maths. As I say, we shared it with the DIA last week. We got 10 feedback points that need addressing. One of them was about some errors in one of the council's calculations. It wasn't KDC. But for KDC, we had to consider what we were doing for stormwater. For Far North and for KDC, they've asked questions. They just want us to add some additional commentary about how we're treating stormwater, because the numbers are quite hefty and that will cause debt increases for council. So we need to do that, and a few other things that are pretty minor, to be honest. So we were stoked with the review that we got. The working group, of which you have 3 representatives, they worked through this in a bit more level of detail on Monday, and we got about a dozen feedback points from them on Monday, which have now been addressed and included in the next draft. So we're making really good progress, and we've got the review period open till Friday, so that we can collect any other feedback that people might have as they complete their reviews, and then we will start finalising that so that it can be ready to go into the council packs for adoption at the end of the month. So KDC is adopting on the 27th. Far North and Whangarei both have meetings on the 28th to do that. Okay, big part is about the implementation plan in the water services delivery plan. A lot of the content of the water services delivery plan is a picture at a moment in time. What do we have and what do we do with it? How have we treated it? What's our regulatory compliance looking like? Those sorts of things. And then we talk about our investment programs, which represent the 30-year capital program that we've talked about before. Those sorts of things are in the plan. They're pretty static as of now, and are likely to, our future is likely to change once the CCO starts planning a combined view, because at the moment it's 3 individual councils coming together. And so in the implementation plan, though, the DIA will monitor this progress, because here is where we're saying what we will do and how we will do it, and the timing that we will apply to it. So this is where we need to set up the foundational documents. We need to incorporate the CCO. We need to set up our shareholder council and our transition team so that we are ready to transfer the assets and resources from each individual council into the CCO for the date of commencement of operation. Okay, so there's 2 phases. One is establishment, which is basically from once we've put the water service delivery plan in through till 1 July next year, which is when we intend to have the CCO incorporated. And then the transition phase for the following year to get us through to the commencement of operations on 1 July 27. Okay, so there'll be, we have our elected member working group now, and there'll be a similar group known as the elected member steering group through that establishment phase. And then we will have the shareholder council be that group.
Mr. Vincent.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to get a handle on it. I did read it.
Thank you.
Not all at the end, but in terms of this flow this far. And it just occurred to me, like, I did recognise there was that key distinction between establishment and transition, but in both of those situations, who's actually doing the doing in terms of keeping the pipes running, keeping the systems going, and billing the customers? So for both of those stages.
So until the 30th of June 2026, council will be responsible for that BAU operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we will do is establish a transition team, an establishment team, and then a transition team to guide through those pieces of work. So there is resourcing discussions happening now, and there were discussions in the working group on Monday about the resourcing that would be required to do this, because people have day jobs. So to do this on top all the time is a big ask.
Okay, so then the transition phase then.
Yeah. So the transition phase, so that the people and the assets will still be within council.
Yes.
Getting ready to transfer on that 30 June
July.
night, 30 June, 1 July. That will be the time. But in the meantime, we're working through what the structures look like, employing the people. Hopefully a CEO is employed pretty early on so that then all those decisions can flow through the CCO from that, in that transition phase. But there will be parallel streams of activity.
Yeah, so I just was thinking and like reporting lines, because the people who are actually doing the actual work still need someone to report to and receive instructions from.
Yep.
So
in
it'll be the transition unit?
No, it will still be within council. It will
Right.
still be within council.
Even between
As a line-
1 July 2026 and 30th of June 2027.
Correct. So in that financial year, the reporting lines, your line manager will still be within council, and there'll be dotted lines. So there is a little bit of work. There was another layer of detail shared on Monday with the working group to show how those structures might work. And we got some feedback from the working group, and we're tweaking those. So that planning is happening right now about what those structures need to look like and how those lines, so there's dotted lines that will have internal and external support, will have governance and operations. So that's been matrixized and working through where the reporting lines are and where the dotted lines are, so that groups are working together.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could. So great word, matrixized. Helen.
Yeah, it's a
Fantastic word.
that one down.
Yeah, I reckon. So like that business as usual stuff, we can't fall on that one. We need to make sure we maintain that. We also need to make sure that we look after our people as well, and communicate with them and make sure that they're across what's going on as part of this process as well, right? Because I don't want to use the A word, amalgamation, but I mean this is effectively an amalgamation of the council's water services into a regional CCO, right? So there is a real need to be measured in that space to make sure we deliver the product that we need to continue to deliver, and then make a smooth transition to the CCO.
Yeah,
that's really what Helen's describing with matrixization.
Councillor Nayo, I hear you're up, got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Finally, so I had a question. Thank you for that. I had my major concern is not so much about forming the CCO, which will happen because there's no other way we can do it. My concern is the capital projects and the amount and the scale of it in the kitty, because when we are going together, every council is a shareholder. So obviously they will be questioning the size and how far we're going to go. And I raised this issue with the local government minister last weekend, Mr. Watts, and asked him, and he mentioned that DIA should be, and that's my question, the DAIA should be at some point questioning the strength of those capital projects. So is it the same direction you are having, or that's the question, or do you not know about it?
No. The DIA are certainly looking at those project lists. So when we did our original modelling, when we did our earlier modelling with the DIA, they looked at the 30-year capital plans for each of the councils to confirm that was warranted, that the work was warranted and needed to be included at the time.
So we are not having any further discussion. Is what you had is what you get.
Well, no, because it's our 30-year plan that we put forward. So, and that's been included in the water services delivery plan, and the DIA has not objected to that. They have asked us for additional commentary around the stormwater activity, but that's all they have asked for at this stage. So they are working with us. We do have DIA advisory working with the working group as well. So we can ask questions on a regular basis, and we certainly were as we were finalising the first draft of the water services delivery plan, which is in your packs.
So sorry, my question was more related to what the LTP has and what the capital projects you have sent in local water done well. The local water done well, they are unconsulted. They are exactly opposite of what we consulted on LTP. Because if you look at the list of capital projects and the scale of it, it is not the same which was under LTP. So at what stage we going to have a consultation with people?
In years 1 to 3 of the water services delivery plan, that matches what was approved in your LTP, because we only did a 3-year LTP this time around. So that's why we did that big session about the 30-year plan, because we had never had a 10-year plan approved. So I didn't want you to see that information for the first time when you saw this plan. So we did that big session in the Matapoi Hall and went through all that plan. That plan
Okay.
has been shared with the DIA and they have not raised any concerns about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor Howard, followed by councillor Lambeth.
If we currently have, and this might be a question for the CEO, we currently have around 160 members of staff, give or take. What is the projection that we'll end up with in council once the waters transition?
So, through Mr. Mayor, so we have to do that work, and that's part of that transition piece. You know, we need to understand every single role. There's some soft costs, you know, finance, that sort of stuff that we need to work through. So that's what Helen indicated before, how there'll be a stream around the transition. So that's where we kick off now. Now that we've got a decision around a regional CCO, we can actually start to do that work now. Okay, what we're doing.
All right.
Bearing in mind that some stormwater services may remain in council, so that all needs to be balanced out in that plan as well. So the implementation plan will look at the CCO and the impact to councils.
So no projections have been done at this early stage?
No, we'll do them for the new council.
Okay.
Yeah, we've identified where resources sit, but we haven't done the number, we haven't done numbers against that.
So Lambeth, followed by councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just segue straight into it. Used to be 3 waters. Now it's local waters done well with stormwater removed. What the stormwater, is it just the stormwater that comes from residential and building through the system? Or does it include surface water? And does it include drainage schemes through the district? Why I ask that is a biggie that I think we've taken one of the biggest aces out of our sleeve, because we deal with a lot of stormwater from the rest of the Northland. And I don't think we've got a problem with our river and everything else, and I don't think we're getting rewards. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So one of the reasons that stormwater is generally not being included in the CCOs that are being established is that
it's too hard.
Almost. And it's not it's too hard. It's just that each council has really different scenarios, right? So Whangarei district is mostly metro for their stormwater. They do have Hikarangi Swamp, which flows into us. So we have all of these different things that we take water from all of Northland.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate. So the stormwater, so the land, anything defined as a land drainage district is excluded. Okay.
Okay.
So it is what they consider to be urban stormwater networks is what's included. But this is where it also creates confusion for people, because in a district like ours and in far north, there is so much stormwater connected to the roads and connected to rural roads that the council looks after.
There's still a lot going down the septic systems.
Wow. Let's not go there. Want to keep my blood pressure down.
Yeah.
So because of all of those different things, Dargaville also has the added element of having some flood protection within its stormwater urban network as well. So in our LTP, we commented about the fact that we need to have more discussions with NRC about who manages what part of some of these things. So those definitions of what is stormwater and what is urban.
What concerns me is we take, for example, the Dargaville resident who's going to now be paying for the water supply coming in, the septic supply going out to this entity. But hello, they've still got to pay the council for their stormwater discharge.
Correct.
So, yeah, okay.
Previously, so in some ways you're asking a question for decisions that's already been made.
Yeah, no, there's just, yeah.
What's your information?
Okay, councillor Williams, followed by councillor Pananiora.
Thank you. I just had a query on the announcement from Minister Bishop about the development levies. Has there been any date attached to that transition from a levy from a contribution? And is there any caveat that will be put in the financials that is all potentially going to change?
So where we talk about development contributions, we talk about future development levies as well. So we're in the plan, and there's probably been a couple of additions to that since the version that you've got here. because we do need to refer to both development contributions and development levies because we don't know how they will transition and the period of time that will be given to transition from one to the other, because some people's policies will be in place for a certain period of time and they may not want to switch to the levies until that policy expires, or we may be mandated that we have to switch over. So that some of that level of detail hasn't come through yet in terms of what we need to do. So that needs to be in the transition planning for both council and the CCO.
Because that could really change what we've put in there as 100%, yeah, 100% contribution. So that's a bit unnerving for me.
Well, we've actually got a risk. We've got a risk for all unknown legislation at the moment, because at the end of the day, we have Bill 3 that's not complete as well. So we're assuming we know what's going to be in it, but at this point in time, it could change.
What gives us a little bit of a higher level of comfort and is the involvement of DIA through this process.
Yeah.
Actually, and the decision that KDC made at the last meeting to request that continued DIA support speaks to that. So.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Paniora.
Yeah, I've got two questions. Before I move to my questions, I just wanted to correct a statement that you made originally within your presentation, which was that we've already previously been provided with the financial modelling. I just want to make it very clear that this is the first time that we have ever had the amount that our ratepayers will pay. All we had at the previous and up until that point was affordability within the entity's consideration of 2.5 to 3.5% of average household income. This modelling seems to have been conveniently withheld from us up until now to ensure that we agreed to be a part of this process. So I just wanted to put that out there. The first questions that I had is around the averages. So we've been given, because I'm always worried about how much our ratepayers are going to be paying. The numbers are diabolical and I don't know how they can afford to pay that on top of what they're already having to pay. The averages that are provided are averages, aren't they? Those are not what everyone's going to be paying. That's going to be the average, so half are above and half are below that. Is that correct? Because similarly, we told ratepayers that the increase would be 9%, and personally mine was over double that, my increase. So is it fair to say that some users will have to pay 8,000, 16,000?
So what page are you actually looking at on the water services?
Page 59, the average, because everything's in averages, so is it fair to say that the averages of between 3,000 and 4,100 over the 10 years is an average, and that some of our users will pay extraordinarily more than that, and then some will pay less than that?
No, some will. Right, for wastewater, it'll be based, that's a uniform charge, and that's at the moment. So everyone pays the same.
And then what about?
For water, it depends on your consumption. So the rate might be the same, and I think that's what's intended in the new.
That's right. So
How was the factor that it was based on, previously based on medium incomes?
So it is.
Does that factor into the uniform charges? Like, what's the formula and the assessment? Is it what you're saying user pays, or is it the household income?
So the average numbers that you're looking at there is the expected revenue divided by the expected number of connections in any 1 year. Okay, and that's in total across the region. Okay, that's where the average
users from. Then it's divided by 5,000. If there's 6,000 users next year because of development, then it's divided by 6,000.
Correct.
The usage will also go.
But that's exactly right. The revenue is also expected to go up with those increased properties. So that's where the averaging comes in. Remembering that we have agreed to within the CCO to initially start as non-harmonised, which is why I've got the next slide here, which we have seen before, which is part of the modelling that has been done. So this next slide shows us from a from a KDC perspective, what we expect our average percent of household income to be and the revenue increase over 10 years. Okay, and then what the CCO is expected to look like, and then what it is for stormwater for KDC.
Is that not arbitrary? Why are we putting household income in there at all when we're going off of user pays and connections and averaging that?
Because it is a method of standardization, I guess, or normalization across the country where the DIA can use that measure to understand the districts that are going to have a bigger affordability issue than others. We have talked about in the plan how this can be distorting for Northland because of the differences in our communities.
It's extremely distorting for Kaipara because our figures are being driven up by our agricultural sector when we know that the ones that are actually on the connection, like the agriculture is not on the system. The ones that are on the system are our elderly who are on pensions, whose incomes are very low. It's not right. That model is just absolutely not right for the Kaipara. So I'm just going to, anyway, move on to my final question. So Silver Fern Farms has been factored into the assumptions, yes?
No.
No.
And we'll talk about that later.
And of course, and then the development contributions being factored into the assumptions, even though we know that ability will be taken away from us when the government changes its.
So like we said, DIA are well aware of that. And you're
well aware of that, and are we being provided with the right figures then?
We are working with, and this is, the DIA are very aware of the scenario that everyone throughout the country is facing. We are using the information that we know today. We know that there are uncertainties in the numbers and we know that there are risks in the numbers. But every organisation, every council around the country has situations where things may change, but we don't know what that change is. So therefore you can't model for that change necessarily.
So is that not contradictory that we're including development contributions we know are out, but we're not including Silver Fern Farms that's very up in the air and questionable whether it's going to be included or not? But can we not have a look at some figures with them included in it? Like, why are we?
So through you, we're going to be talking about Fern Farms in the PECs the agenda. Yeah, I know. And that's all about that.
So right now, so our modelling.
We're going to talk about it in PECs, Councillor.
Capturing that.
About that in the PECs.
You're just making far too many assumptions. You're going far too far forward on assumptions and all of this modelling.
So what I would say there, Councillor, is
it's on DIA.
DIA is driving this process, right, on behalf of the government. That is the reality of the situation. If they're providing us these measures, average percentage of household income, for example, that's DIA giving that to us. So we are working with DIA constantly, and we're actually thankful for that to get all this across the line, right? So don't forget that the Water Services Delivery Plan, once you approve it and all the councils approve it, goes to DIA. And then they go through it and approve it as well. They may not approve it, they may come back to us more, which is why we're talking to them now and involving them early in the piece so that we have the greatest chance of getting it approved. Whether you like it or not, DIA are controlling this process and we have to work with them.
So then why are we bothering around the table then? Let's just give it all over to them to.
So we're giving everybody an opportunity to become aware of what's happening. Okay. Would you like to carry on, Helen?
So, well, this is the last slide. So I just wanted to give you this summary because there is an awful lot of tables and charts in there. They are DIA driven. They are what the DIA wanted us to prepare and in the form they wanted us to prepare them in. But this summary was quite useful when we were considering earlier modelling. So I wanted to do it again in this format with the latest numbers that were sent last week. I appreciate all three councils have a couple of things that could impact and change those numbers before we submit it. So we're very conscious of that. But this is the situation as of the 30th of July, based on what we knew.
Okay, can I just pass on one piece of feedback for you to pass on to DIA, as if we can please have Kaipara's average income as the users currently connected. and not the whole district.
I'm not sure if anybody determines what that average, that median income is, but I can see if it is done at any other level.
Okay, well,
Yep.
that would be really helpful.
I can certainly check to see if any of that information is available at lower levels than the district only.
Good challenge.
Well, maybe they should start reporting on it after this goes into play. Anyway.
Okay, is there any further information you want to impart, Aaron, or?
That was it. Just if anybody does have any feedback, if they can get it through Kelly or Alana to us by Friday, that would be fantastic, because then we've got a couple of days to try and finalise it before we start getting packs ready for council meetings. Okay.
Okay, all right.
Thank
you very much. We'll adjourn for lunch. We'll come back at what, 1:30?
1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
It's 25 minutes.
Okay, 25 minutes. We'll catch up some time. So we'll be back at 1 o'clock. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Come down.
Down on the screen. Mike Hooker.
Okay.
Next on our agenda today is the annual resident survey. Is that Michael up there on the screen, Michael Hooker?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Welcome, Michael, from Key Research. So you'll present this item online and Sue Davidson will present this item in person as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't seem to be able to see my slides at the moment.
I can do them.
Right, Michael, we'll just get them put up in a second.
Sure, no worries. Thank you.
Nice to hear you.
Yeah, you too. All right, there they go. Thanks very much. Here we go. Any moment now. Thanks very much for the opportunity to present. Good afternoon, everyone. As introduced, Michael Hooker is my name. I'm the Director of Research at Key Research, and I'm here to present the summary of the annual residents' opinion survey just recently completed. So I'll begin by just going over what the objectives of the survey were. I'll talk a little bit about the method that we used before going on to have a look at how some of the KPIs have performed, where the highest and lowest levels of satisfaction are sitting at this point in time. We'll have a look at what's sitting in behind that, what's driving those perceptions of satisfaction. I've got some interesting insights, additional insights this year to show you before moving on to have a look at some benchmarking data, and then we'll obviously finish with the conclusion. So the survey sets out to measure how satisfied residents are with all of the services and facilities which are provided by the council. We have good longitudinal data available to us now, so we're able to identify how attributes are performing over time. Importantly, we want to be able to identify which of the attributes are having the highest level of influence upon overall perceptions of performance, and that then allows us to set priorities, improvement and action plans for going forward. So this is now the 10th year that we have conducted the survey, and it is the 6th year that we've conducted it using the postal to online survey method. So this is where we use the electoral roll as the sample frame, and that is by far the best sample frame we can build for residents of the district. And we post them a letter through the mail, and the letter introduces the survey, and it has a QR code in it and a link in it as well, by which residents can access the survey. You'll see here we get a really good response rate and a really good number and level of responses as well, 754 for this particular 12-monthly period. We get a good proportion of the population responding, and a good profile as well, but it's not perfect. So the data is weighted to ensure that the population profile is as we see from the 2023 census. We can conduct fieldwork at 4 points across the year, as you can see there, essentially to account for any issues of seasonality and any topical issues which may be in play at any particular point in time. So onto the KPIs then. So what we see here is after a really nice lift in 2024, unfortunately the results are not so good this year around. In particular, we see quite a decrease there in perceptions of overall satisfaction, and a number of these other cornerstone KPIs have declined as well. You'll see here that they're now sitting quite some way below where they were in 2019. I guess one of the benefits of our survey and the way we conduct our analysis is that we're able to look inside these numbers, if you like, to have a look at where sort of the strongest levels of dissatisfaction are coming from. And I have some slides later in the presentation in which I will illustrate that. So let's now have a look at where the highest satisfaction ratings occur. Now, this is a pretty similar profile to that which we received in 2024. So some really good scores are represented in here. So we've measured 58 attributes in total. So 19 had registered improvements in perception of performance, 36 had registered decreases in perceptions of performance. So if we look now to those which recorded the lowest levels of satisfaction. Next slide, please. So we see here the attributes related to the roading network and also attributes related to value for money. And again, this is a very similar profile to that which we had received in 2024. So we'll move on now to look at where the biggest levels of improvement were. And there is a bit of a good news story developing. And amongst all of this, the council is recognised for providing good customer experience, so good customer service, and also communications. So you'll see a number of those attributes represented in the slide. So that's representing a slice of good news for us. But now let's look at those that show the biggest levels of decrease. And I guess the concern here is that a number of these attributes are what we would call cornerstone attributes, or those which are likely to have an influence upon a resident's overall perception of performance. So moving to the next slide. So introduced a couple of years ago a number of attributes which we were watching over time because they were starting to show a bit of a downward trend. And again, after a nice lift in 2024, several of them unfortunately are reverting to that downward curve again, except for, and this is another good news story that we will point out, roading and footpaths. So that attribute continues to improve its rating. So another slice of good news there. If you've been in these presentations previously, you would have been exposed to our driver model. So this is where we used a statistical analytical model to determine which of these cornerstone KPIs are having the greatest level of impact upon overall performance. And we built this model on basis of challenges set down to us over the years by our clients who wanted to understand what they should do in order to improve their overall perceptions of performance. And so we introduced some of these holistic concepts, if you like, around image and reputation and value for money, in addition to core service delivery. And that was on the back of us understanding and realising after decades of this sort of market research that residents found it really difficult to separate out perceptions of the performance of the mayor and councillors and elected members in the council and value for money from core service delivery. And so what our model's telling us here is that image and reputation is having a 66% level of impact upon overall performance, so far more significant than perceptions of value for money or core service delivery at this point in time. And so now if we look at the difference year on year, from 2024 to 25, last year we had the same sort of effect happening where reputation was carrying a really significant impact upon overall performance. That's increased this year, so it's an even stronger level of impact this year, but we see correspondingly a decline in the level of performance for that particular attribute. So it's starting to build a bit of a story here on perhaps some of the reasons why we're seeing that overall satisfaction metric decline. The beauty of our model is that we're able to look even further down into sub-attributes. And if we move to the next slide, we will see a number of these attributes, and these are actually questions in the questionnaire represented here, which we run a similar sort of statistical analysis across. And we'll see that the attributes related to the council being prepared for the future, showing leadership and the performance of elected members is kind of equally impactful, if you like, upon that overall performance metric. So again, further clues here in terms of the sorts of things that could be improved upon, which will flow through to affect our residents' overall perception of performance. Move to the next slide. This is something that we introduced last year, and it's a bit of a thing for Kaipara, and it continues again this year. So of the 58 attributes that we measure, over half of them experience this kind of effect. And we illustrated this last year because we wanted to show how while significant proportions of the population think you're doing a good job, there are significant proportions at the other end of the scale as well. And so while it's good news that there are the 22%, which are 8 to 10s, significant proportion of the population, you could say is being left behind. So we wanted to point out that was happening across the district. And earlier in the presentation there, I mentioned that we had conducted further analysis to determine where the strongest levels of dissatisfaction were originating from. And our analysis is really governed by the questions that we have in the questionnaire and the data that we have available to us. So we're able to analyse all of our information across a number of demographic and geographic characteristics. So we've got age, gender, ethnicity, household income, location of residence, length of time in the district, and how many people live at home as questions in our questionnaire. So we looked across all of those particular questions to determine where the strongest levels of dissatisfaction sat. There wasn't anything to see for any of those except for 3. So we have age, we have ethnicity, and we have location of residence. And so I'm just going to talk through a little bit of what we're seeing. Oh, sorry there. Can we just go back to the previous? Yep. So the first area we looked at was age. Now, if you're aged 18 to 34 in the Kaipara district, you are much more likely to be dissatisfied than residents aged 65 plus, and significantly so. So we see the average difference in satisfaction there is minus 21 percentage points. We've identified the attributes here which are showing the highest level of difference in satisfaction, some really significant differences here. Across the 58 attributes that we measure, 18 to 34-year-olds were more satisfied across only 3 attributes than those aged 65 plus. So let's have a look at the next characteristic, which is Māori v non-Māori. So if you are identifying as Māori in the Kaipara district, you are much less likely to be satisfied. So identify as non-Māori, and the average difference there is minus 18 percentage points. And again, we've highlighted the attributes here for which the highest differences in satisfaction occur. And if you identify as a Maori, there are none of the 58 characteristics for which you would rate the council as performing better than non-Maori. Let's have a look at the third characteristic then, which was location of residence. And so if you're a resident in the Wairau ward, you're much less likely to be satisfied than if you live in any other ward. And again, we've identified the characteristics here where there are the biggest differences in satisfaction. And again, some pretty significant differences there. Across the 58 attributes, there are only 3 for which residents of Wairau were more satisfied than residents from any other ward. So starting to give a few clues there as to the areas from which the highest level of dissatisfaction are emanating from. So if we go to the next slide. So this is a general comment section. So we have a number of questions throughout the questionnaire where respondents can form some comments and provide those verbatim. So this is the general comment section, fairly similar profile to 2024 as well. So we see that the Chestnut network there. So we typically get some comments around the quality therefore of the roading network. Moving to the next slide. If you've sat in these presentations, you will have seen the reputation profile illustrated in the past as well. So this is a really neat way of us encapsulating the entire community, all of the respondents of the survey into this reputation quadrants. Interestingly, this year, we see maybe that polarisation effect starting to come into play as well, because we see improvements in the proportion of champions, but we also see an increase in the proportion of skeptics as well. And that's as that middle ground there around admirers and pragmatists starts to decrease, and respondents are typically moving to either end of the scale. So the challenge there, of course, is to try to reduce the proportion that we have in that skeptics quadrant. Okay, so we now have a couple of benchmarking slides here. So this is the green line represents the best in class. The grey line, silver line running across the middle there. So that's the sector average. There are 20 councils benchmarked here. The blue line is Kaipara. And you'll see that Kaipara is at or just below the sector average for a number of these KPIs. And on the next slide, we will see the core service deliverables plotted in the same way. So Kaipara sort of just below the sector average there for most of these attributes. So if we look at now some of the highlights, these are the really good parts to take away from the report. Communication and customer experience has done really well at Kaipara. So things like if you call up with an inquiry, for example, the understanding of your needs, the quality of communication, length of time to resolve the matter or the overall outcome of the request or complaint are all rated highly and continue to improve. Encouragingly, we see overall roading of footpaths is trending upwards, so that's very positive. We see Kaiwaka Mangawhai residents' perceptions of overall water management has improved significantly, and that's generally off the back of perceptions of stormwater collection improving significantly over the past 12 months as well. And then the final slide here, some concluding comments. Unfortunately, we've seen a reversal of the improvements that were experienced in 2024. Hopefully there's something in the presentation today and in the report which sort of highlights why this is. We see performance decreases across several KPIs, including overall performance. We identified significant differences across three demographic and geographic characteristics. But encouragingly, we saw improvements in perceptions of the roading network and communications, customer service and customer experience. Again, we see that polarisation of responses for some attributes. And our driver analysis highlighted again the importance of image and reputation and showed us that leadership and the performance of elected members is really significant in terms of driving the overall perception of the organisation. So thank you. That's the summary of the presentation. I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
I've got a hand up there from Ash Nair, I believe.
Yeah, in the car park.
Kapai. Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Michael. That was awesome. I just have a question based on the key items, the core services, and you mentioned the decline in the three key points as we started. Was the value for money, the core services, and you also mentioned a non-percentage item is lack of distrust in mayor, deputy mayor, or whatever. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it just based on value? Is it just based on, is it based on perception or is it based on actuals? Can you hear me, Michael?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all I'm trying to say is the percentages of decline are based on perception as well, or is it on actuals?
So So the data which is presented has all come from the survey, from the questionnaire. So those questions are asked of residents, and they've given us scores, and we've calculated those scores and interpreted the data on that basis. So there's no other analysis other than what the data is telling us from empirical evidence.
Oh, that's good. So I'm summarizing, rates are going up and the core services are going down. So actually the net denominator will be value for money will go down, isn't it? So they are all related. That's the question I was trying to figure out. Yeah. Thank you.
Anyone else like to ask a question? Councillor Paniora.
Yeah, like I'm aware that this is for information. It's not going to go to a council meeting, so this is probably our only opportunity to speak to it. I just wanted to say that when I read it, I was actually quite disappointed, and probably we all should be disappointed around the table. And those results, they're really, really low, and we have lots of areas to improve on. One of the things that we are doing well, though, that was in the results, is our open spaces and facilities. And when we listened to our item previously from the project office, you can kind of see why that is because when we've been showing the graph, I think it was 37% of the allocated projects are to open parks and spaces. So that's something that, we can take away from it. It wasn't a surprise to me to see the disappointment levels of actually Māori, wahine and Wairo of all ages. And there's no surprises why that is. And equally, Pākehā males and mangawhai kaiwaka 65 plus actually quite happy with the way things are going. So it's the me's and the mayors really that are unhappy and happy. And so I think to take that forward is really the way that things are being reflected around the table is driving a lot of the downward perceptions and the results that we're getting. So I think that that's something that we should really take on board as leaders of this district and our community looking at us, and just thank the community for providing that really open and frank feedback, taking it on board.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for our presenter. My perception is that what you're doing is taking, in effect, anecdotal comments and putting them with a consistent structure to collate them. You can make it sort of more objective information, but it is still, as you do use the word, perception, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it anecdotal. This is a socially scientific, robust market research survey where we've asked questions with scaled responses and collated that data in a really reliable way, and then analysed the results on that basis, and then formed opinions and conclusions from that.
I'm not disputing the conclusion that you've come to. I was just trying to get a handle on the process, because rather than say it's anecdotal, you're actually harvesting people's opinions.
Yes.
And which can be subjective. And rather than it just being an individual's subjective comments, you're actually collating them together so they form a pattern. Would that be right?
Yes, we're basically conducting a sample survey across the population, but we're doing it in a very rigorous and statistically reliable way, in the sense that we have 754 responses, which is a very robust number.
Yep.
We have a small sampling error associated with that. We are weighting the data back so that we're not over-representing any demographic or geographic characteristics here. So we're getting a very good result and a very statistically reliable result.
Okay, I'll just I'd like to make an observation at the end of all that is that for your information, there is a reason, and I guess it proves the validity of what you're saying when we see that uptick in the roading performance approval rating, because there are some changes which have been made within the last 12 months, which it looks to me like they've shown up there, which then lends validity to the other comments about the greatest opportunity for improvement is through the improvement in the leadership of the people who are sitting around the table in this room. And I guess that's outside your remit to be making suggestions as to how we might go about making a change to that number. But I'll be interested to hear what you have to say if you did have a comment.
Yeah, well, we can certainly deduce conclusions from the data, but we obviously don't reside in the district. We're not privy to everything that happens and all the decisions which are made. But given that it is a very robust piece of work, and we're very confident in the results which have been provided back to us, we can give some really clear direction on the sorts of things that you could do to help improve overall perceptions of performance, and hopefully we've done that today and also through the report.
Okay, well, I for one will accept my share of responsibility for that number. Thank you.
Councillor Erin Wilson-Collins.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. It's always really good to see these resident survey results, regardless of whether they're positive or challenging for us. A couple of observations that I made that I think are interesting are the uptick in the roading, fantastic, and obviously that's something that has been worked on really hard. But then the second most common verbatim dissatisfaction messages were about roading. So I just find that really interesting. And the graphs that you showed with the average satisfaction across councils, I find it really interesting that the patterns are the same. So the satisfaction levels of each area kind of go up and down. Even if they're high or low, they go up and down in a very similar pattern. So it seems to be like no matter where you are in the country, there are certain areas of council that you are more or less satisfied with are the same.
Yeah.
So that was fascinating. I will point out again for the third time that for the third time in a row, our waste management aligns with the lowest satisfaction across all councils. So that's something that I will keep banging my drum about because it just keeps repeating. It aligns right on that orange line for all councils that are surveyed by this company. And so we have the lowest scores in our waste management and have done now for 3 surveys because I've brought it up each time. But I do have a question for you, Michael, and that's to do with the polarization. So I really find that really interesting. It very much reflects my real world experience of being a councillor. Do you have any advice on what to do with that information? Is that to just put things into perspective? Do you look at the other 50% that are not at the 2 extremes? What is there? Do you have any comment on what to do with knowing that is there?
I think it is to look at the other sides that I presented here, which show where the strongest levels of dissatisfaction were coming from. And I think we haven't done this analysis, but it's not a very big step to take to assume that those who are sitting in the lower end of the scale are those who've got the strongest level of dissatisfaction, which I illustrated in this presentation. And if you would, really wanted to improve your scores, you'd be looking at where those strong levels of dissatisfaction were and knowing, okay, these particular attributes in particular are ones that we should focus on. Because as I pointed out, it's great that there are people scoring 8 to 10s, but a lot of the community is completely the opposite. And are being left behind, I guess, from that sense.
Yeah, okay. And just one other question, which is more for the CE, and I just can't remember, but that might happen anyway. But I mean, this is really great information, and it's really a benchmark now. It's really the starting point for a new council after elections. Would this come to a briefing of the new council so they know where those levels of satisfaction are and what challenges they're actually facing?
We wouldn't repeat the briefing as such.
No.
We could take the incoming council through a high-level summary so that they understand where their community is at.
I think that would be really advantageous, especially if you're going to have new people around the table. It's good for them to have an understanding of what they're actually, where they're starting from.
Yep.
And then when they get their first survey results, it'll be more meaningful for them as to what change has happened, if any.
We do that at the beginning of this term?
Remember?
No.
I don't think we did.
We did. That's why I said it out loud. Thank you.
Michael, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. So how many councils in New Zealand do you survey?
20.
20. Oh, yeah. And this one here, are the other 19 recent to make this comparison?
Yeah, so the benchmarking slides that I showed you are all 2024, 25.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing, the question I'm interested in actually is, this will be an opinion from you, I guess, is you seem to be having a lot of attacks on councils generally in the country, particularly, I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that central government's been tossing a little bit of dirt on councils.
Yeah.
Do you think that reflects in the survey?
Yeah, it probably does have a bit of an impact there. I mean, it's difficult for us to point to anything in particular, but I think there's fairly obvious negative sentiment, and we see this for every organisation that we work for, every council that we work for. The perception scores right now for each of them are nowhere near where they once were. So there's a lot of big societal factors at play here that are influencing people's perceptions as well.
Yep. Larson.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. That polarisation effect that you see here is, I've certainly seen it increasingly polarised at a national level in New Zealand sort of over the past 6 or 8 years. Is this not just a similar trend across society where we have much more political polarisation, where some people are very happy and some people are very unhappy with the way things are going?
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. So I mentioned that the polarisation effect is a bit of a thing for kaipara. Over half of those 58 attributes show that polarisation effect. Another client of ours, Palmerston North City Council, doesn't have any attributes which show polarisation. So you would say then that, well, everybody who's a resident in Palmerston North, they're much closer together in terms of the scores that they are providing. So it's an interesting observation you make, but we would say that the evidence that we can see is not necessarily so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any further questions? Look, Michael, thanks very much. It's really informative, and I hope we can use that going forward to improve the situation. So it's appreciated that you turned up to present today. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, could I ask our chief executive on this topic, like, is anything going to come of this? Like, are we going to have a discussion about it and sort out what's going to happen, or do we refer to what Councillor Aaron has suggested, and it might be something that the new council could get its teeth into as a basis for having a good discussion?
Hands. So, I mean, from a staff perspective, we put in the report, I think, we take the results and look at what we need to do to improve in that space, and what we celebrate what we've done better in, like comms, for example. So from staff perspective, we do take these results and work on them. From an elected member's perspective, I am in your hands. If you want to do something this side of the term, you are running out of time, I would expect.
Yeah, I think we're running out of time.
But my take on it from Councillor Wilson-Collins' suggestion, which is, getting a starting point where your community is at, is a good starting point for the incoming council.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Actually, I'd be really interested to know who the other 20 councils were other than, was it us and New Plumston?
So most councils do resident surveys. It's just this provider has 20.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's move on. Corporate assignments, signage is the next item, item 5. Welcome Ruby.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Put my jacket on and off. It's quite cold, but I'll give it a go. I'm here today to update you all on the district signage replacement project before we start work on the rollout to replace the current signage that we've got around the district. Some of you are in the Economic Development Committee and you will have heard some of this already. I took a paper to that in June. So we've got entry signage at the moment at 6 locations around the district. They're all slightly different, but they all use the blue KDC colour. They're portrait, they have text on them and they've got the KDC logo on them. These are the current locations. So they're at the north and south entry on State Highway 1, which is south of Kaiwaka, and then they're also south of Brindewins just by Atlas Quarries. They're at the local roads, Mangawhai Road and Cove Road, that's the north and south entry to Mangawhai, and then they're also on State Highway 14, Tangataroria, and State Highway 12. And that one's just up past Proud Road. We also have a smaller one at Murray Road in Tangawahine, and there isn't one currently on Paparoa Oakley Road, but that would be considered a secondary entry into our district. We're not talking about those last 2 at the moment. And as you can see, they're in pretty bad nick. I think they were put up around 2004. Some of them are missing.
They look like your sign.
2 that are missing at the Brindewins by Atlas Quarry. So it just has the frame, just a white frame. I think Cyclone Tam took the panels down for that. And the other one that's missing is on Tangataroria, that also just has the white frame. But the other ones are still hanging on there. And you can see they're not in great shape.
I think the one on State Highway 1 got straightened up. That's been a slight angle for many. Yeah.
The wind.
Yeah.
With another form.
Yeah. Oh, we want entry signs that really welcome people to our district. They do a variety of things. So we want them to create a sense of place for Kaipara. We want them to enhance our tourism appeal. So a well-designed welcome sign can make a district really feel inviting, welcome people into them, encourage travellers to explore our area and really know where they are. So it's also about supporting economic development. So by making our district more recognisable and appealing, the signage can contribute to local business growth and it creates market recognition for Kaipara. And also obviously improves navigation. People know where they are. It assists in wayfinding. It ensures travellers know that they're entering Kaipara when they come here. And they know where they are. So as you know, last month we launched the Visit, Live, Work, Invest standalone website. And that's about supporting economic development and new residents to the district. And the replacement district signage that we're looking at today is complementary to this. So we've worked with the same company that was working on the website to develop the sign design for the replacement signage. And the sign designs reflect and use specific parts of that brand. So you can see we've got the main colour themes from the website. We've got the wave element in the text going down here. And we're also looking to use iconic Kaipara photo images as well to support Kaipara as the place to be. There's a couple of key things to note here. So the images and the corresponding text colour will change at every entry location. So there's 6 different images, 6 different colours, or 3 different colours, should I say. And all of these images were updated following the feedback from the Economic Development Committee. So some of that feedback was to include more of the blue colours of kaipara, more water images. So every image I think has got water image in it now. The sign dimensions are 2,440 millimetres by 1,800 millimetres. And the material that we're planning on using is ACM, which is like an aluminium composite material. It's really light and compressed, and it's a common signage material. And the plan is for it to be 2 different panels. So the bottom panel will be 1 panel, and it will be cut and separated from the top panel, which is the photo image. And we're working with the installation company, obviously, to reuse and save the current poles. So some of them are in good nick, some of them are in not so good nick. And so we'll definitely be using the white poles that we can in the places. So the photos that have been chosen, as I said, all include water elements. We've got Kaipara Harbour, this one here is Pahi, this one here is Kaiwi Lakes, Taharoa Domain. We've got east and west coastlines in the next ones, and the colours used for the bottom section of the signs have been selected to complement all of those images. These 2 here are the Cove Road, the northern entry to Mangawhai when you're coming from Langs Beach over the hill and coming into Mangawhai, and then the other one is on Mangawhai Road is the south entry. And then the State Highway 14-1 Tangataroria is a beautiful image of Rapiro Beach, and State Highway 12 is the Twin Coast Discovery Highway is obviously the Potapua Lighthouse down the bottom. And there's a couple of mock-ups here of what they look like in situ. So you can see the white poles behind are the white poles that we look to reuse. That one is the Tangataroria one. And this one is the northern entry to Mangawhai.
Yeah.
Was that, sorry?
Same size as where the current one is?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And you can see in the photo, the 2 white poles are the poles of the current sign. And I think those ones are the ones that are in really good nick and we will be able to use.
I think that one's in the bush at the moment. I think it's got to.
We may do a little bit of trimming. So obviously some of the other feedback from the committee was that they wanted to see versions of the sign that included the word district. So on the left, the top 2 ones have district in them. The original sign that I took to the Economic Development Committee in June is this one here, so without the word district in it. Yeah, and I guess I'll just mention a couple of things here while I'm on this page. I have shown these designs to NZTA and I've had quite a lot of conversations with them already, and they've already approved in principle all of the images, all of the colours and the full text versions. So whatever feedback I get from you today, they are happy with those ones there on the left. Yeah, and I think probably just to add, the other feedback would just be that a lot of the signs around New Zealand for district signs have welcoming words in them. And I guess the difference between just having kaipara and saying welcome to is that we're actually bringing people into our district with those words. So it's gives people more a sense of literally welcoming and acknowledging that they're coming an arrival into our district, that they're coming into to see us.
Yeah, because you travel all around the country and all of the signs are consistently that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we need the word district.
So that's for feedback to it. Yeah.
I would have thought you would have said hi to my key would have been out. So we're winning today.
Do I just get clarification, Mr. Mayor, on what's expected of us today on this item? Like, does it require a decision from the council? Is it going to come for a meeting, formal
We can't make
approval?
decisions.
Or just what? Or are we
If
a vote on it but it not be a vote, or?
I recall recall when the last council was together, we formed our drivers and,
Vision out.
sorry?
Your vision.
Our vision and drivers, you know. So we're like 4 weeks from voting papers going out. I'd be happy to see the next council make that decision rather than us load them up with one. That's my thinking.
I think it's a big deal myself, but I think we need to be clear about the process. That's all.
I think we should just give some feedback today so that the staff can still keep continuing with their work program and then bring the decision back after the election.
Having had the discussion, I'm happy for us to make a decision on it, or the Economic Development Committee be authorised to make a decision on it or something to
think we-
get it moving.
I don't think it should be the role of the development committee. I think it should be everyone's decision. I think it should be a
No, we can't. do that.
decision we make later on. Councillor Larson, you get on.
I just wanted to respond to what just been said. Yeah, I think it needs to be a decision of the whole of the council, definitely. It's like, it's one of those things that's like, it might not seem like a big deal signing it off, but I think it is a big deal for a council because it's brand. And I actually agree with what you've suggested is I think the new council, I don't disagree that people can give feedback now if they've got some thoughts, but I think ultimately the new council should make a decision on it. Because although, you know, these last signs have been up there for 20 years, possibly be up there for another 20 years. And if I was to put myself in the shoes of a new council, you come in and you go, oh, where's our branding? What are we doing with our branding? And you go, oh no, the last council just signed off on these signs. They go, oh, I don't really like that. I wanted them to all be the same colour or whatever, you know.
Look, I guess my primary concern is that we don't have a de facto decision made here and now.
Feedback.
But we can provide, because to me, what you've presented is enough to go to a council meeting for a decision. You might want to have a recommended version. If it was, I'd say pick the one on the top left-hand corner, but that would be my feedback. But present us with all the options, or the new council with the options, if that's the way you want to go. So
Through the mayor, I have my hand up.
Feedback. Put your hand up, Ash.
My hand is up for a while, you know. I'm sick. I'm sick also.
There you go.
Yes, I'm actually very sick in terms of the welcome sign. The welcome sign at Mangawhai has been missing for 6 months. What I'm more concerned about, regardless of whether this council or the oncoming council does the job, signage is one thing. It should not be missing even for a day. I mean, I wonder, $50 million we give and we can't even fix a sign? That's my concern. And in terms of, I mean, we are running a show with a broken sign for 6 months in Mangawhai. Yeah. So my feedback is fair and simple. Ruby, you have done a good job. And as Councillor Howard pointed out, there's no point saying district. It's just like saying, I am me. You're just repeating yourself. Kaipara is Kaipara. Kaipara is a district. Who cares whether it's a district or not?
Also a harbour.
It was a harbour.
Well, if you make it harbour, then you are making, there is no land. But
I'll tell
anyway.
you what. Can I speak? Can I speak? I think there's quite a lot of, actually, I think there's quite a lot of different thinking in the room picking up on. I think you need to call it district, because Kaipara could be the harbour that runs all the way down to Helensville. So, you know, I think we should be able to make written feedback on this and give our, and I think we should note a report and then put it to the next council to make a decision.
Yeah, my feedback.
Well, you cut me off, sorry.
Sorry, Ash, you've had your feedback, Councillor Panayara, she can have hers, and Councillor.
I think you interjected. I was just about to finish, but anyway, let it go.
Right.
Leave it for the next one. Thank you.
Councillor Panayara.
This is pretty simple. The top left corner is my feedback. However, one thing that's missing, and I suppose it was because it was East Coast top heavy on the committee, was over on the West Coast, I'm just saying, over on the West Coast, we're really proud of our Kumara capital name, and, you know, both regionally and nationally. And I would have, if I was on that committee, I would have had a Kumara garden from a long distance in operation with the tractors. and the rows going, to give prominence to our kumara industry and the workers that it provides. Otherwise, that's my feedback.
We're getting lots of good feedback here. Councillor Erin Wilson-Collins, I think you were next, followed by Councillor Rachel Williams.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, great work. They're very distinctive and yeah, and I think they'll stand out very much on the highways. My question, I have a question actually, rather than feedback, because we're talking about branding and things, and I was just wondering why the logo isn't on the sign.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at a lot of the welcome to signs around New Zealand, and it's increasingly councils are not putting the logo because it's not about the council logo. It's about feeling like you're in a place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Logo still exists.
Oh, the logo exists and is our council brand. These are they're
Placemakers, yeah.
welcome to signs.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, through the development, it was all about keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Williams, did you want to add to that?
I did, yeah. I just on the logo thing, I just thought because I noticed it's not on the Visit Live Work website, it's on the council website, but I just thought it would be the one thing that would tie the Kaipara in would be to have the logo on each of those things. I just, as branding goes, logo is, you get it on your rates, it's on the,
Yeah.
I just thought it would have been, even if it was just a little one down the bottom there somewhere, just to tie it all in online maybe. Anyway, that's just my thoughts.
So Howard, did you have an input?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, Gordon said it, it's a matter of keeping it simple, and I think that's the conversation that's been had throughout. Actually, when you think about it, these are on roadsides and we're traveling at 100 k's an hour, or some people drive less than, as they're approaching them. There's a lot to see. There's still a lot to see. And yeah, that's the reason why you want to keep it simple. In any of those, there's quite a lot to take in. So I hear what you say about the word district, but I think that people will know as they're approaching that, what the Kaipara is the area. I suspect I might be assuming too much, but I would say bottom left is a good basis for us to consider.
But lots of feedback coming in. So I think put your feedbacks into emails, send them to
I also add, just remember, we've got a number of options on this, so there is going to be plenty at different places for people to pay attention to the sign. You don't want to make it harder than it need be.
We'd like to know around the table where it's going to go. We keep on getting blindsided.
Told us.
Sorry.
No, I mean, the consensus around the table as to where it's going to go.
I don't think there is a consensus other than the fact that I suggested that we all put our thoughts on paper and send them in to confirm what we do here.
Council will make a decision.
And then we note that, and then it goes to the next council to make a decision.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, I think that's what I'm hearing is the general direction is that you want to send it to the next council. Is that anybody speaking against that?
That's fine.
I just want to point out it is an LTP project. We've done quite a lot of work to get to this point. It's been through the Economic Development Committee, accept that. So thank you for your feedback, which the incoming council will ignore and do what they want to do. And that's just the way it is. So appreciate that. Ruby, did you want to say something?
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify, are we taking it to a council meeting for a decision with the next council, or?
We're just taking the direction now that will go to the incoming council.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
It's the website.
The brand, it's in-house. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have any feedback on that, there's an email on the website. Right. Send, it's hello@kaipara.org.nz.
Let's move on. Thank you, Ruby.
Thanks, Ruby.
So the next one is in PEX. So do we need a minute to go into PEX?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor, please.
Thank you, Alana.
Just keeping it simple.
Yeah, I get that. I just comment that that's the one that links it. It's just
Oh, that's.